Hello, I'm Professor Fred Long. I teach New Testament here at Asbury Theological Seminary, and I'm currently the Director of Greek Instruction. I wanted to welcome you to learning Greek and to your Greek experience here at the seminary, and I wanted to provide you some words of encouragement as well as some guidelines and some instructions how best to learn Greek. Now I want to begin by relating to you the top 10 reasons why students learn Greek. Now this data has been collected for a couple decades now, and so these are the top 10 reasons. The 10th reason is you take Greek to glean insights from the Greek New Testament, from word order, grammatical constructions, tense usages, and word studies in order to teach and live out the truth of the gospel. So that's number 10. 9. Because the seminary requires it, and because you've been called to Asbury Theological Seminary, and because Asbury Theological Seminary requires you to take Greek, ergo, you're taking Greek. 8. To entertain family and friends for hours on end. 7th, to win at Scrabble. 6. To use as an evangelistic tool for frats and sororities. Some of you will go on to campus ministries. 5th reason to take Greek is to convey an aura of learning to congregations and to impress your district superintendents. 4th, to confuse would-be thieves by shouting, "Oh, emu, eboiethe kurie." This will confuse them, and you're actually calling on the Lord's help at the same time. 3rd reason you learn Greek is so that you can communicate in heaven. The second top reason, number 2, is because it's there, you just do it. And the number 1 reason why you learn Greek is for spiritual formation, because suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Well, I want to talk to you about learning Greek and give you some strategies and orient you to what will be happening to you. First off, you're going to be learning vocabulary. And over the course of Greek 1, there'll be about 250 vocabulary words that you'll need to learn. Now, the key to learning the vocabulary is recognizing the symbols. And so almost right from the very start, you're going to be learning the alphabet and then also the pronunciation. So the combination of these letters will be for forming words, and you'll memorize those words with a gloss definition. Now, a gloss definition is a basic definition. It's a beginning level definition. And when you look up these words in lexicons or dictionaries, you'll see that they have a much fuller treatment. But for beginning Greek, it's impractical to have you learn long, complicated definitions. So one of the first things that you're going to do is learn vocabulary, and these will keep coming at you week by week. Now, this is very important to stay on top of your vocabulary, because the vocabulary will be reinforced in the lessons. If you don't memorize your vocabulary at the very start, you'll start feeling behind because you'll be translating sentences and parts of sentences, but you'll have to be looking up every single word because you haven't memorized them. So a high priority should be placed on learning vocabulary. Now, there's different ways that you can learn them, different strategies. People have used flashcards. You can make these yourself. I'm going to upload some basic templates that you can use with definitions on the back, or that you can write your own definitions on. I used a write them out method, and here you can see some sheets that I had written out when I was learning Greek, and on one side of a piece of paper I can get 90 plus words on it, and I would write in ink, I'd write in pencil, I would use cherry flavored smelling pens as well, different kinds of strategies so you can get all your senses going, learning these vocabulary words. There's also computer programs like Accordance, BibleWorks, and Logos that will have vocabulary flashcard programs. The problem here, though, or one issue may be that the gloss definitions don't exactly line up with what is found in Koine Greek grammar. Also, you can use online tools such as Quizlet and Anki, and fortunately students have already uploaded some of the vocabulary there, or all of the vocabulary, so you can look to those websites. And some of these have apps, and there's additional apps like Quizlet, Microparser, GreekKit, which might help you learn the language. So vocabulary. This is something that is fully in your control, and you'll see weekly there's going to be online quizzes that you can take, and this will help you keep working on the language. The second area that you need to understand learning a language is going to be grammar, word formation, or what is called morphology. Greek is an inflectional language, which means that it has words that have endings on them. Those endings are going to tell you what part of speech, what kind of word it is, and how that word is functioning in the sentence. So pay attention to endings and learn them well. Now, Greek is fairly methodical, and you'll see a lot of patterns in the endings, but just be prepared for that. English doesn't have so many endings. Spanish does have some endings, and so those who've learned Spanish or know Spanish or have learned other languages may have a bit of an advantage, at least conceptually, in terms of words having endings. So you need to understand some basic things about the sentence in terms of morphology and words. First of all, there's some basic functions like conjunctions, subjects, verbs, objects, and modifiers. These 5 kinds of words will be recognizable by their endings. So conjunctions, verbs, subjects, objects, and modifiers. And so pay attention to these kinds of words. They're large categories. And another kind of idea too is that Greek will have main clauses and sentences, just like in English, and dependent or subordinate clauses, as also in English. And this brings us really to a third aspect of your learning, and that is when you're learning Greek, you're going to need to learn a meta language, that is a grammar language, a set of terminology that will help you make sense of what you're learning. Now, these grammar terms alone can be challenging because you're learning a language, then you're also learning a language about language, a meta language that describes the language. But this meta language is actually very important because it helps you organize your thoughts, and it's conventional. Scholars have used these terms, so what you're learning are kind of standardized terms, and this will help you to engage and read works that will also be talking about Greek, but in a way that is concise and meaningful. So you learn this meta language because it's conventional. You learn it because it helps with categorization and organization. But lastly, you learn it because it helps with clarity and being concise when you're talking about this or that aspect of Greek language. So another kind of distinction in here, in terms of learning the meta language, is that I'll talk about semantics, which is the inherent meaning of some word or a construction, and then pragmatics, how a word or construction is used. And there's a distinction between the two because semantics has to do with inherent kind of meaning, that is that which is marked by an ending or a form or particular construction. But then there's also the use of constructions and the use of words in actual live language, and that's called pragmatics. And so this textbook has a view on both grammar and pragmatics, semantics, the inherent meaning of words, and also the discourse function of words in terms of pragmatic use. Another helpful concept is the concept of constituent. And basically a constituent is a sentence element or a set of elements that belong together. Greek sentences will have elements, constituents that'll work together and organize around each other. And in this textbook, in this class, in this grammar, I'm going to be teaching you a marking method, a constituent marking method, and I want you to pay attention to this and to practice it. It'll help you navigate Greek sentences. I'll upload some videos. There's some exercises that will exercise you on how to do this, but I strongly encourage you to understand and work with constituent marking. Now, a fourth aspect of learning the language, so far we've been looking at vocabulary, then grammar, morphology, then the meta-language of grammar. The fourth is grammar constructions themselves, or what might be called syntax. So the basic sentence is going to be comprised of a verb with a subject and an object. And so this is the building block of syntax, of the basic structure of sentences. Now, Greek will vary in its word order. English normally will start with subject, verb, and object. So, I went to the store, or I carried a bag. So subject, verb, object is standard for English. Greek has a standard as well, but it will also vary word order, and paying attention to those variations is very important. Some words will work alone, and they will connect sentences one to another. These are called conjunctions. These are very important because these conjunctions will mark certain kinds of meanings or relationship between clauses, independent sentences to the next sentence. But most words will work together in groups or clusters. And a big part of learning Greek is to recognize those clusters of words or constituents as they work together. For example, a preposition will not just usually stand alone. If it did, it'd be more like an adverb, but rather it'll take an object to it. So, into the house is a prepositional phrase. And so, look for these larger patterns of significance, grammar constructions, and an important part of learning Greek is to learn these constructions and their significance, both in terms of their inherent semantics or meaning, as well as then their possible uses or pragmatics. A fifth aspect of learning a language I call meaning, significance, and translation. So the goal in this class, even though we do a lot of translating, it's not to be translators per se, but it's to understand what's being conveyed by the Greek text. What are the nuances? What are the basic semantics? And how does this construction used in actual live discourse, and what are the implications of that? Just understand that I'm not asking you for perfect translations, but I'm asking for good translations and insightful and perceptive translations, and particularly understanding of the significance of words, of constructions, and of their use and context. Some final thoughts on learning. First, daily review is absolutely necessary. It's the most helpful thing for you every single day to do something, to keep those vocabulary words fresh, to review endings and grammar every single day. Secondly, engage all the senses as much as you can. So sight, smell, hearing, touch, and I'm missing one there, but you understand. Basically, I want you to engage the language as fully as you can. That might mean going for walks while you're looking at vocabulary words. It might mean using cherry-smelling pens that will help associate meanings with a good, pleasant smell. That might mean using different colors as you're writing out notes or organizing your notes. So engage as many senses as possible. And third, encourage one another and work together as you're learning Greek. It can be very discouraging at times. Sometimes it seems really slow going, but encourage each other and also consider working together. So encourage and work together, but don't let others do the work for you. So work together, but be sure to do what you need to do for your learning. And I just wanted to encourage you with Greek here. So vocabulary, morphology, learning the meta-language of grammar terminology, learning grammar constructions, and then meaning, significant, and translation. So I wanted to cover those 5 things and then just give you these final thoughts on the best ways, good ways of learning Greek. Happy parsing to you.